darkness kills, destroys the will. Find a spark, make hearts thrill. Hear the tales of time so grim. Shine a light, don't let it dim. Heather Brown, downtown, bound. True crime story she's found. In the shadows, secret stay. Need a light that finds the way.
Welcome back to another exciting episode of Defeating the Darkness, True Crime Stories with Downtown Heather Brown. That's me, your host. I'm a former homicide and sexual assault prosecutor here in Orange County. And today I'm super excited to welcome our next guest. She's a badass baller who's made some maverick moves in her day and her life. And she's here to talk to us all about how she came to be such a cool, amazing, remarkable, incredible leader and woman. She's a retired FBI agent. She used to work counterintelligence in the Army. She was like a spy. And now she's a host of Maverick Moves, a cool ass podcast that you must check in and listen to. And she just recently did a TED Talk and she's done 1,000 things. And she's going to tell us all about them. So welcome to the show, Gina.
Thank you, Downtown Heather Brown.
I'm so excited that you're here. And, you know, I usually start out like, you and I, we met in a bar. I don't think you and I met in a bar. I feel like we met at like some SWAT thing where they were rappelling off the building in Westwood.
Very well could be.
And I remember you were there and I was like, who's that tall blonde? And so my husband introduced us. You used to work alongside my husband in the FBI.
Yep.
And you were a special agent, and then you were like a big shot, right?
Yeah.
In management.
Yes.
But let's back it up. Before we get to FBI and all the other amazing things you've done, tell us about Gina and how it was that you like started out in your career. Like what were you doing when you were younger? Your first job. What was your first job?
My first job. I think I was making fried chicken somewhere when I was 15.
All
yes.
Right. So those of you who are making fried chicken right now, just know you could be a spy and an international agent one day.
Someday. Yes. But I always loved the CIA and spies and everything. This was back in the day, back in the 80s, which was actually the decade of the spy. And so I was absolutely fascinated with it. I read every book that I could possibly read on spies and spy catching and all of those things. And then I'm in my second year of college. I knew if I wanted to go to work for the CIA, I'd need to transfer to a university because I was at a junior college and I had run out of money. And some guy in the library of the junior college came up and talked to me and told me about the Army's counterintelligence program. And the next day I went down and I signed up.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, was he a recruiter for the Army?
I don't know who he was. I don't know what landed him in my path. I never spoke to him again. I wouldn't remember him if he came up to me. But yeah, it was just one of those things where, and I was in the do not speak, the silence area of the library. And he just came up and he didn't even try and hit on me. It wasn't anything like that. But all of a sudden he was telling me about the Army's counterintelligence program and to me, how I could get my education. And it was kind of like a Private Benjamin thing. Because I could go and live overseas, I can, have a civilian closed assignment, I can do all of these fun, exciting things. And luckily it worked out that way because I could have landed at Fort Hood and I could have been painting rocks for my 6-year Army career. But instead I got to chase spies across Europe.
That's crazy. Okay, so how does one put in to be a spy in the Army?
So it's like any other job. It's called 97 Bravo, or at least that's what it was called back then. And I took a test for it and I tested, my test scores were high enough to get into that. And I went through basic training just like everyone else. And this was like in 1987. So I'm dating myself. I guess I can't say I'm 39 anymore. But yeah, I went through basic training, went to Fort Huachuca, Arizona. That's where the intelligence center and school is for the Army, and spent a few months there. And my first assignment was in Belgium, fun fact, at the Supreme Headquarters Allied Powers Europe. And if you watch the movie Private Benjamin, that was her first assignment too.
Oh, so you do have something in common with Goldie Hawn.
Oh, for sure. Yes. I was the one wearing red lipstick in my battle dress uniform. And then my first sergeant would catch me and I would have to do push-ups because of it. So yes.
I love it. Can you still do push-ups to this day?
I say I can. Yeah.
All right, we'll go with that. Okay, so let me back up though. You are you finished 2 years at a JC and then you talked to some random guy in the library and you decided to go try to be a spy in the Army. What did your family say about this?
So I was on the delayed entry program for like 8 or 9 months, and I didn't tell my family until the week before I left because I didn't want anyone to talk me out of it. My dad was a Marine, and he was thrilled to find out that I had joined the Army, right?
Yeah, not so much.
Yeah. So yeah,
That's like
blasphemy.
that's grounds for
yeah.
an ass whooping.
I know. But yeah, and my mom still didn't believe because I told her, I said, no, they're picking me up today. And she didn't believe me until
How old were you?
21, because I was a cocktail waitress in a comedy club. So I went from being a cocktail waitress in a comedy club, the Laugh Stop in Newport Beach, it's not there anymore, to becoming a spy catcher within 6 months of that time. So yeah.
So what is a spy catcher?
So we worked, I was very fortunate. So a 97 Bravo, a counterintelligence agent. So we work espionage cases. And back then it was the end of the Cold War. It was in Europe. So you had the Russians and the East Germans. They were all working in Western Europe and meeting with people. And they were trying to recruit Army contractors, Army soldiers. And that was what our job was, is to find them and neutralize the threat. And so I was really, really fortunate. So I was in Belgium for 2 years, and then I went to Germany.
So you were trying to catch the people that were trying to infiltrate the military?
So we were trying to catch the people who were trying to infiltrate the military, whether the Russians or the East Germans. They were trying to get Army contractors, Army soldiers to turn on the United States. And so those were the people that we were going after, but we were also going after the people who had turned. And so, yeah, so we worked, I was on a specialized team and based out of Frankfurt, Germany. And we were on the road probably 9 months out of the year on different high profile espionage cases. And I did that for about 3.5 years.
So were you like undercover as a spy?
I was undercover as an investigator. And so doing surveillance and doing other things out there in order to support the cases. We did one case in Baumholder, Germany, and this was during Desert Shield, Desert Storm, where there was an individual by the name of Albert Sambale. He was a specialist in the Army in Baumholder, Germany, and his company that he was assigned to, they were in Kuwait shooting the Scud missiles out of the sky. And so, so he had gone somewhere and met someone, and they were trying to recruit him. And so we did an undercover operation. My Army mentor, Connie Huff, was the case agent on that case, and went up to him, said, we hear that you're trying to do this, got him into a hotel room, had him sign his life away for $3,000 to pay him for the information that he was trying to sell. And he wound up getting 34 years in prison for committing espionage.
Oh, wow. Okay, so where does, what kind of training do you get to be a spy?
Interviewing, interrogating, all sorts of different tradecraft, because back then, you would have all of these super secret tradecraft that the adversary was using. Meetings, surveillance, detection routes. So you learn how to do all of those types of things to not only, counter the threat, but then also target the individuals who were the threat. So it was really a fascinating time in history.
So did you have like an undercover name and stuff like that?
Yeah, and I had been programmed for a whole disguise kit. So I had
What's a disguise kit?
So a disguise kit is they give you wigs, and I had a pregnancy pillow, which I think I still have that to this day. That was like the best thing ever, because when you're working 36 hours at a time, to have my pregnancy pillow that I could take a nap in the back seat of the car with, right? So wigs, pregnancy pillow. They would give you like scar, stuff that you can put on your face to make it look like you had a scar. And so, yeah, so really, really high-end, state-of-the-art stuff back in the day.
Wow, that's so cool. What color wigs did you get to wear?
Oh, gosh, really terrible, awful brown wigs. Nothing personal, but not my
Gina. Why you gotta be like that? Those are fighting words.
red wigs. Yeah, anything other than blonde. Yeah, because they didn't want me to stand out as a 6-foot-tall blonde, right?
I know. I was just going to say, like, you're very tall. Like, it seems, and blonde and gorgeous. It seems like people would be like, who's that lady? Like, you would draw a lot of attention.
Well, I mean, you definitely dress down, and I could change my look pretty easily so that you'd be surprised at how when you don't want to be seen, that there are ways that you aren't seen.
Wow, that's so cool. What was your spy name? Are you allowed to tell us, or do you have to kill me?
I'd have to kill you, so
Really?
sorry,
You still
I
can't tell me?
share it.
Okay.
No, it was a good one, though.
Was it one name, or did you get to change different names?
I've had a couple of names, but when I was in Germany, I went by one name.
Okay. Do you know how to speak German?
So my husband at the time, his mother was German, so he spoke German, but I spoke French, which is why I wound up in Belgium, because I was in the southern part of Belgium where they did speak French. And so I when I first got to the battalion headquarters in Germany, they were going to keep me at the headquarters. And that meant I wasn't going to be able to do any super fun stuff. I was going to be kind of a grunt at the headquarters building. And so I may have declared that I spoke French a little bit better than I actually did in order to get to Belgium. But once the orders were cut, but the only unfortunate part was my captain in the detachment in Belgium did speak fluent French. And so, yeah, he figured it out pretty quick.
Were you so busted? Were you like, oh, we? You probably didn't know how to say anything.
Yeah, I took 3 years in high school, but I think my last year in high school, I was borrowing the homework from the 10th grader who was sitting in front of me, right? A senior.
Did you disclose that on the FBI interview?
I probably not. Probably not.
Just
but
kidding.
yeah,
We're gonna hook you up to a lie detector test later.
Exactly.
Wow, that's crazy. Okay, so you're like international spy. This is so cool. How long did you do that? How long were you in the Army?
For 6 years, just under 6 years. Yeah. So I got out in '92. And then tried to get into the CIA, and it didn't work. And so I waited through a 4-year hiring freeze and wound up going into the FBI in 1996.
Okay.
Where I met your husband because we were both assigned in the same office here in Orange County.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So give us the dirt on Tom Brown. Was he like a pain in the ass in the office?
You know what? The thing about Tom Brown is, and this is my story and I will stick to it forever, is he is an honorable man.
He really is.
Yes.
Oh, I can't rip on him.
Yeah, not only through what he says, but through what he does.
I know.
And so that is and I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. But yeah, he is a good man.
He really is. He really is. I know I like to tease Tom Brown a lot, but yeah, he
is easy to tease.
He's he's like an easy target. It's like he's easy pickings.
He really is.
Especially for me. And but he rips on me just as much. But I love the guy, and he is very, very honorable.
Yes,
he's constant and consistent.
Yes,
so.
he is. I remember a time when I was out there, and I may have ripped my pants when I was at the firing range, and of course. Well, I'm probably one of the only women who are out there, and this is not the type of thing that anybody wants to have done. And so I went up to Tom Brown to explain to him the situation, and I think he may have given me a sweatshirt or something, but he came to my rescue. So yes, he is a good
and he
man.
never even mentioned that to me.
Oh,
he's so honorable.
Well, he better not have mentioned it to anybody else.
He didn't. He never told me that.
Yeah.
He is a good man.
Yeah.
I'll give him that.
Yes,
he can stay at least another couple years. All right. So you're working at the FBI. Tell us about your career in the FBI. How long were you an FBI agent?
For 22 years.
Okay.
And
that's a good long clip.
It was a great ride, and it went by so fast. My first assignment, I was actually assigned to a counterintelligence squad in the Santa Ana RA back then. It's not called the Santa Ana RA anymore, the resident agency. And they also did civil rights cases on that squad. And so my very first case was this old civil rights case. It was an involuntary servitude case where Thai girls were being brought into the United States and forced into prostitution. And so I look in this case file and I see this newspaper clipping where a detective from the Westminster Police Department named Tommy Ratcliffe had just rescued 2 Thai girls. So I'm thinking, this is my guy. And so they must not have had phones back then, because I just got in my car and drove over to the Westminster Police Department and, took my badge and said, Gina Osborn, FBI, and, brand new out of the academy. And they're all kind of looking at me and they're kind of ignoring me. And it just felt really weird. So finally, Tommy comes out. He's an old gray dog, been with the department for 30 years, takes me back to his little broom closet office, gives me a couple of names and just throws me out the back door. Not throws me out, but just escorts me out the back door while I'm still talking. So I'm like, I'd go back to the FBI.
So needless to say, you did not get a warm reception?
Not at all.
But some assistance.
A little bit of assistance. He just wrote 3 names down on a piece of paper and shooed me out the back door. So I'm like, okay. Well, I run the names, international organized crime. So now I'm super excited. I go back over to the West, of course, no phone call, go back over to the Westminster Police Department. And then this time he sees me and he walks me into the chief's conference room. So what I didn't know was that the chief of police for the Westminster Police Department hated the FBI. Apparently there was something that happened in his city and he was the last person to know. So no FBI agents in the city, no FBI agents in the building. And then here I show up. So the chief comes in, he takes one look at me and then finally says, all right, you can work this one case and that's it. And I spent the next 5 years on a task force. We built a task force at the Westminster Police Department to work Asian organized crime. And we worked everything from loan sharking to murder for hires to these involuntary servitude cases. And we were able to rescue a lot of the girls. So it was really worthwhile.
Wow, that's amazing. So you actually had rescues of the women.
Mm-hmm. But the problem that they had is because, of course, these women had families back in Thailand. And so, there's a lot going on in the news with regard to the customs and the ICE and things like that. Back in the day, these girls would go into custody because they were too afraid to tell us what was happening, and then they would get bailed out. But we were able to put enough heat on this group, and there was one individual who I probably shouldn't say his name, but I wound up taking 3 of his homes, and because he was making bank they were setting up these brothels and houses and rented houses. And so you'd have like 4 bedrooms in the house and they were running girls and guys in all day long. But we were able to keep them from, bringing the Thai girls in to do that. So that was worthwhile.
Yeah, I'll say.
Yeah.
That's incredible. If you can just help one girl to not be sold even just one time, then you have done some great work on this planet, because I can't even imagine what they have to go through.
Yeah.
And the thing I don't think people really realize, Gina, is that, if you're a drug dealer, if you want to sell drugs, once you sell them, you got to go get more drugs. Mm-hmm. And it's expensive to get more drugs, and then it's dangerous to get more drugs, and you always run the risk of someone stealing your drugs, right? So there's all these added risks, but then these animals that sell people, if you're selling girls, you can just sell them over and over and over again, and one girl over and over and over again. And if you get caught with her, you say she's your sister or your cousin or whatever, it's not illegal to have another person in the car with you. So you're not going to get busted with the girl unless someone figures out what you're doing. And like you said, there's so much fear and coercion involved that they're terrified and they don't want to report what's happening, even if there's some slimmer of hope and they have the opportunity to tell what's going on. So,
yeah. Well, in Little Saigon, this was a big business, because when we went into the pimp's house, he had $100,000 in $100 bills, and it was $100 in order to have sex with the girls. So, and again, he owned 3 homes. And so because we couldn't get the girls to turn against the pimp because they're afraid that their families are going to get killed in Thailand, I took a different approach to it as a federal agent, because they were going state on all of these cases. Well, I would look through all of the records and the mortgages and all of that, and the pimp was sending his mortgage payments via the U.S. mail to Arizona across state lines, and he was using his illegal proceeds. So that was created an ITAR case, and we were able to seize his bank accounts, his houses that he had bought, because we were able to prove that the money that he was using was coming from his illegal proceeds.
That's awesome. What's the name of that? Shocking.
Sorry, I kicked that word again.
Okay.
I knew I should have pulled the same back. My bad.
That's all right.
Sorry, guys.
That's
no
okay.
worries. We're alive.
Right in the face.
We're alive. It's excitement. We'll put that in the outtakes, the special ones you got to pay and the
should.
subscription to see. Me
Picture,
getting impaled by a no. I'm
Yeah.
We're fine.
You know, it happened at the perfect part too.
I know,
Right?
I was like, dang.
No.
What was I saying? What was I talking about?
You
Jaden?
talked about the ITAR.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I was about to ask you. So let me
Okay.
go back to that, right?
Got it. Fix your light.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
that's all right.
At least it only got flipped over.
No harm, no foul, Pete. We're good. It's all good. No apologies necessary.
Why in the base?
Am I talking too much or are you good?
Oh no, you are talking a little fast.
Okay. I'll
So
slow
maybe
down.
slow a little bit.
Got it.
Just because everybody, what you're saying is fascinating.
Okay.
I want you to know that.
Slow
We're
down.
just
Okay.
chatting.
I know. I always talk fast, so that's
You
good.
do?
I do.
Court reporter would hate you.
I know.
I do too. Listen, I'm no better. I make a lot of little offside comments. so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really, Animal?
Come on now, Pete. Okay, so where were we? Oh, you just said something like ITAR. What is
Right.
that?
Interstate Transportation and Aid of Racketeering.
How do you even remember that? After I asked you, I was like, probably shouldn't have asked you that. But
Yeah, I remember.
Wow.
I know. It's
Nailed
all
it.
up here. It's all up here. But yeah, so it was something that, I mean, because we were looking for federal charges on this guy because otherwise he was just going to get 30 days in county jail for pimping, right? Yeah. So we looked all into it. It was a lot of work to go through all the mortgage paperwork and all the bank accounts and things like that. But that's what we do in the FBI. And
yeah.
we were
and you're
able
good
to
at
get
it.
him.
And you know what? I got to say, on that note, I have found this, that sometimes it just takes a little bit of effort to get the bad guys. Effort that a lot of people just aren't willing to do.
Yeah.
And which is a crying shame. But like you were in that moment thinking outside the box, right? Like, oh, we got to get them for the 30-day, prostitution, which nowadays, now that the human trafficking laws are on the books, they weren't back then.
Yeah.
They get a lot more time
Yeah.
when you're using the money, proceeds and whatnot. But I love the fact that in that position, you had the wherewithal to say, hey, let me see if we could get him for some federal charges too. And took the time and the effort to do that. So kudos to you for doing that.
Yeah, well, we'd noticed that these girls were on a rotation. So they were on a circuit. So they would go from Little Saigon, Orange County, California to New Orleans to Miami. And so I got to know other FBI agents in other offices. And so my dear friend in New Orleans reached out to me and she said, hey, do you know, what was it called? It was a tanning salon that was a big house of prostitution. And she said, are you familiar with this? And I'm like, yeah. She said, well, we had arrested the woman and then she had a friend and they were doing an undercover operation in New Orleans where they had a police officer going into these houses of prostitution and they were trying to pay the police officers. So they were bribing the police officer. And so this woman who was under a case in Santa Ana was trying to bribe a police officer in New Orleans to get her off. And so that was another a federal case that we were able to put on her where she was going to get a lot of time. And I remember arresting her. She was probably in her late 60s, and she was wearing a robe, and she was completely naked underneath it. And my partner, Tommy Ratcliffe, who I never left the department without, right? So we go to arrest her, and she just whips off her robe, and he's like, "Okay, I'll see you later." And so so we arrested her, and her husband never even bailed her out. So
Did you arrest her naked, or did you make her put the robe back
yeah,
on?
I know. I had her put some clothes on after that,
Okay.
but yes, I had to go through that though. That's what it's like to be a woman in law enforcement. You always get stuck with those type of assignments, right?
Oh yeah, I bet. The guy's like, I'm out of here.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness, that's so funny. Okay, so you're working this Asian organized racketeering, all this other stuff, right? But and taking them down, and that was for about 5 years.
Yeah, so did that for 5 years up until 9/11. And then after 9/11, we saw all of the priorities for the FBI change, and terrorism became the number one priority. And so I wound up moving over to terrorism. I was promoted. I became the counterterrorism program coordinator for the Los Angeles field office. And I did that for a couple of years before I wound up going back to headquarters for my headquarters time.
And headquarters is in D.C.?
In DC. So if you want to promote to the executive ranks in the FBI, you have to do a stint on the mothership. And so I chose to be on the inspection staff, where I was anywhere USA inspecting a field office, an FBI field office, and then back in Washington, D.C. for 2 weeks. So every other 2 weeks I was traveling. So it was a really good opportunity to see what it was like in other field offices, the leadership in other field offices, what was working and what wasn't. And so I did that and during that time, the cyber program was brand new. They had just stood up the cyber program for the FBI. And the priorities were a little messed
And
up.
when you say cyber program, is that like computer stuff?
Yeah, so
computer forensics?
Computer intrusions. So any sort of like a criminal computer intrusions, like hacking, any sort of state-sponsored, so the national security, computer hacking, that type of thing, and then also computer forensics as well. And so none of the team leaders, I was a team leader, when they came out trying to give assignments, we were all going to Chicago, and they said, okay, who wants to do the cyber program to inspect it? And nobody raised their hand, and I figured, you know what, why not? I had been married to a self-proclaimed computer geek for many, many years, so I kind of understood the lingo at least a little bit, and within 3 inspections, I became the subject matter expert on cyber and computer forensics, not even knowing how to really turn a computer on at the time. And then LA created an assistant special agent in charge for cyber and computer forensics. It was a brand new position, the first in the country. And so I put in for it, and I wound up being able to come home, and I did that for 11 years.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. So that was a huge bulk of your career. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Half my career was dedicated to cyber and computer forensics. And it was great because I was surrounded by greatness every single solitary day. And when I go out and I talk to leaders, CEOs, executives, and, talking about leadership and creating, really great teams, you have to surround yourself with people who are much better than you are in order to really, really be successful. And I was very fortunate to have those people because they were phenomenal.
Wow. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So did you work on any really interesting cases there?
So we did. So when Sony Pictures got hacked by North Korea in 2014, that was one of our cases because that happened in Culver City where Sony Pictures was. And it was really fascinating because North Korea was not happy with a movie that Sony Pictures had made. It was called The Interview. James Franco and Seth Rogen, I'm pretty sure. And they wind up going to North Korea, and a lot of things happen, and I don't want to ruin it for anybody. But at the end, they do something to the supreme leader of North Korea that they did not like at all. And so it was they decided that they were going to warn them. And then one day, I think it was like the Monday before Thanksgiving that year in 2014, all of the 3,000 employees go to work and they see this skull and crossbones on their computers, and they had taken down their entire network. So, yeah. And then, it was really the first time that we saw psychological warfare deployed. Because they took the chair, there are 2 chair people, Amy Pascal, and I can't remember the other gentleman's name. So 2 chair people over Sony Pictures. They took their emails, and every 3 days they were putting batches of their emails out on Pastebin, so the public was seeing it. The media was eating it up, because every time something got dropped, there was more information. They took content, films, scripts, HIPAA, Social Security number from the employees. I mean, it was really, really a devastating, catastrophic, multi-billion-dollar, I'm sure, loss for Sony Pictures. So that was really an interesting case. And my team did so well, I should say our team, that going forward, any other catastrophic attack was going to be modeled by the way our team investigated the Sony Pictures hack, because we were able to compartmentalize different things, and other field offices helped us because it was such a huge investigation, but it was really, really fascinating.
Now, at the time it happened, did you know who was responsible for it? Or was that the whole investigation, figuring out who was responsible?
Yeah, my team was able to identify who was responsible for it within like a couple of days. Yeah, and then it was North Korea.
But what do you do once you figure out, like, these people in North Korea hacked our computers? Then what do you do?
Well, you do the entire investigation. You collect all of the evidence. We did an indictment for the individuals in North Korea. If they ever come to the United States, they're going to have a problem. And then there were other cases, offshoot of those cases, where different North Korea individuals, because really when you look at, your big China, Iran, North Korea, Russia, they have cyber armies that are spending all day, every day, trying to get into our systems, trying to get into our banks, trying to get into our critical infrastructure. So it's really fascinating to see how that type of thing could have happened on U.S. soil, in 2014. So now that we have, this thing going on with Iran, they have a very, very capable cyber army. And so it'll be interesting to see if there's retaliation from Iran relating to the attack that just took place.
Wow. Do we have cyber armies too?
We have.
We must.
We have a variety of different people who are working on the problem. So yes, and I can just tell you, based on what I saw on my team, we have some very, very good people working the threat for sure.
Okay, good. Okay, so back to Sony. So, when this happens, you can figure out who did it and then indict them in case they come to the U.S. But as far as unraveling what they're doing and stopping them, how do you stop that?
So that's all the national security side of the house and all of the information.
That means she can't tell me. She can't tell us, people. This is an outrage. What happens on the podcast stays in the podcast.
That's
and
right.
Anywhere it goes.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
I got you.
But we'll just say that, yes, we are very formidable in that arena.
Okay, so don't be hacking anybody's computer because
Yeah.
Gina's on it. She's going to come get you.
Yeah. But the most fun that I had, and I can't say fun, but the enjoyment and the gratification of the job came from, I was in charge of the Crimes Against Children program for 7 years.
Now you're speaking my language,
I
Gina.
know it.
Talk to me.
I know it. Yes.
Well, that I'm assuming is with the RCFL?
No.
No.
That was with the SAFE team.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
The SAFE team.
Yes. So I I had, for the cyber people, to have them, because they were kind of to the side when it all came to cyber, and then they wound up going over to the criminal program, which absolutely broke my heart. But I understood what they were doing, a lot better than I did the big brain stuff on the cyber side. Although I was able to lead that side, my heart was with.
So you were a leader of those people in terms of managing and overseeing everything, but you didn't have to do the day-to-day, figure out how to hack a computer kind of thing.
That's, although I did go to training and I did learn a lot of things, but let's just say, yes, I have had about a thimbleful compared to, an entire person who had been doing that his or her entire life. But I had a special place. I still have a special place for anybody who rescues kids and saves kids, because they're a very special group of people. And it was interesting because they would always have lunch together. The entire squad would go out to lunch together every day. And that blew my mind, because you don't see that on other squads. Okay, it's lunchtime, we're all going to go do our thing. But that was a very, very tight-knit group. And I think what really fascinated me was just one particular case where we had one of our agents who was doing undercover, and he wound up chatting with some guy in Arizona who decided that he wanted to have sex with this 13-year-old girl. And within a couple of texts and maybe an email, this guy in Arizona got in his car and drove all the way to Westwood to get arrested by the FBI SAFE team, and it all happened just like that.
I love it.
So
Gotcha.
I know it, but that's what we're faced with in our society, that there are people out there who do that, and you know that.
Oh, yes, I do, all too well. But I loved working alongside the SAFE team.
Yeah.
And I think I talked about this with you in our last conversation, which we'll talk about in a minute here.
Yeah.
So how long were you with the SAFE team?
It's about 7 years.
Oh, wow. That's a good clip too. That's a long time.
Yeah. They were in my command with it for 7 years. And we saw a whole lot of things going because of the technology and how things progressed so quickly. Even back then it was, still going. So yeah, so they did some really amazing things. But would you ever go to the, what was the conference that they had in Dallas every year?
Yeah. No, I presented there at,
Did you?
at that conference.
What was that called?
Crimes Against Children
something.
Conference in Dallas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably what it was called.
That's what it was called.
That's what it was called.
Yeah,
yes.
it was like the Crimes Against Children conference.
Yeah. I think I only went one time, and that was enough for me because it is a very, very serious subject, and you have to have that personality to be able to compartmentalize it, or else you take it. I mean, I don't know how you did it for as many years as you did because and you're still doing it, and I think it's an amazing thing, but to be that intimate with that content on a daily basis, it's got to play on your mind.
Yeah, it definitely does play on your mind. But that goes back to your point about the camaraderie between the team, the members on the team, and how they go to lunch every day. You really do form such a bond with the people that you are in the trenches with in that arena, because you're really facing the darkest thing. I mean, that's pure and simple evil. For you to be, raping and doing these horrible things to children and sometimes infants, like, it is so dark and twisted and just like you're at war with the devil himself. And when you're there with these other people and they're in it, like, there's a bond that forms that you just, it's unbreakable.
Yeah.
And
And what was interesting is I would go out on search warrants with them every now and again and just observe how my team is doing. I wanted to be part of it and to see how professional they are when they go into a house to do a search warrant. They know that someone in the house is either distributing or manufacturing something with child pornography, but they don't know exactly who. Is it the son? Is it the father? Is it the mother? Who is doing this? And, they go in and they do their investigation, and they are so professional and so unbelievably patient doing this investigation. It was always I was just in awe over how, knowing what is happening here, and yet they're able to maintain that professionalism to get the job done. That always impressed me.
yeah, it is really impressive. I've had nothing but wonderful experiences working with the SAFE team, and they've come alongside, some cases that we had worked together, and they were incredible and just really professional and crossed all their T's and dotted all their I's, and just like you said, just really impressive.
Yeah,
It's good
for
stuff.
sure. And the United States Attorney's Office, we had really, really good AUSAs that we worked with, and with you all as well. So,
Yeah. And you can get better sentences on different things. Like you were thinking, like, how can we get them more on the prostitution and go for, the cross state lines kind of federal charges. The same thing goes for the child sex stuff. Like child pornography, believe it or not, is up until not too long ago, it was a misdemeanor. 6 months in jail.
Wow.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Whether you had, on state level, whether you had 2 images or 20,000, it didn't matter, 1 count. And now it's a felony. Well, it's a wobbler, right? It can be filed as a felony or a misdemeanor, but still it's a 1623 crime. So you're not getting much time for it. But if we take those cases federally, the feds will stick it to them, right?
I think it was just for possession. I think it was a 5-year mandatory minimum.
And then the feds, the way they do it is like this tiered thing where they'll look at not just how many images, so more images get you more time, which makes more sense than the statewide 1 count, but depending on what's in the images actually kicks up the sentence. So if there's tying and binding, if there's, animals and all kinds, I won't go, terrorize you with the gory details, but every little twisted thing that you can do with a child or an animal, if that's in there, it bumps up the sentence. So you can get like 15, 20 years on kiddie porn, which is great. Where statewide, you're like getting a misdemeanor.
Yeah,
which is stupid.
Yeah, and they were working child sex tourism as well. So they were working with
The traveler cases, right?
in Cambodia. So so my agents were in Cambodia working those cases. And those are the worst of the worst, because those people have created their lives around the opportunity that they had over there to do what they want to do. And absolutely shocking. So they were able to take out some really, really significant players over there.
Oh, I love that. Stick it to them, Gina. Burn them alive. That's what I say. I'm such a loving soul. I'm so terrible. That's the one area that I need prayers from all the listeners, because I do have a desire for extreme vengeance against child molesters. I want to light them on fire. I do. I'm sorry. Forgive me, God. But I got to let him that's why I'm not a vigilante, right?
Yeah.
I got to leave that to somebody else, not me. So anyway, so you worked on the SAFE team. You did. Now what? Then what'd you do?
Now what? So I left and I wanted to pursue creative ventures. So I had a true crime podcast back in the day. Gosh, this was back during the pandemic.
Lead Like a Lady, right?
No, it was called Behind the Crime Scene.
Ooh.
So I did that. And then I did Lead Like a Lady. And I was thinking when I created that title that nobody liked, I was thinking of Margaret Thatcher, because she is somebody who I wildly respect. And she was the Iron Lady. So I put leadership in lady. So we rebranded it this year, and now it's called Making Maverick Moves. And I have people coming on the podcast to talk about maverick moves that they've made in their personal lives, that they've made in their careers. And people always ask, what is a maverick move? And to me, a maverick move is when you're scared, when you're nervous about something, when you are at that threshold and you need to push through. It's the people who are afraid, but they do it anyway. And so that's what I'm promoting on the podcast. And that's what I talked about in my TEDx talk, is that in order to have breakthrough success, you need to be able to push through. And I think that's what holds a lot of people back, And I like to, talk about how, like in the FBI, we would go and do arrest warrants, right? So you have a subject, you know all about the person, you've done surveillance, you know where this person lives, and now you've got a team of 5 agents, you got other agents on the perimeter, you're walking up to the door, and we don't know what's on the other side of that door, right? The subject, who could be a murder for hire suspect, he could be in bed asleep when we go at 6 o'clock in the morning, or he could be laying in wait for us as we crash through the door. So based on our experience, based on what we know, all the research, all the work that we've done, our experience, we go through the door. And if something happens, then we're going to have to pivot. But that's what I'm trying to share with people, is that you have to get to that point where you have that confidence to be able to go in anyway. And if something goes wrong on the other side of the door, know yourself well enough to know that you're going to be able to pivot and make it okay.
I love that. I love that. So you bring on people and you let them share their maverick move, and you interview them and everything. And then I actually listened to one. I loved it. It was about your story about, it was the LA Metro story. And I loved that one. So if you will, share with our listeners a little bit. But so people can listen now to Maverick Moves.
Yeah, Making Maverick Moves. Yes.
Making Maverick Moves.
Yes.
And I had the honor and privilege of being a guest on your podcast.
A very popular guest, I should say.
Well, thank you.
My listeners love downtown Heather Brown.
Well, I'm excited to hear that. Thank you. It was fun. I had a great time, and you had a great group of people there, and it was really a fun day. So thank you for having me on.
Of course.
But so people can still listen to all of these things, right? Can we still listen to your true crime podcast?
I don't think that's still up, but all of the original Lead Like a Lady episodes, and I had some really interesting guests on that, and I'll tell you about one. Her name was Brenda Robinson, and she was the first African-American Navy pilot in the history of our Navy, okay? She was in the International Pioneer Hall of Fame. She was the first female African-American American Airlines pilot, okay? And so I was talking to her. She was telling me about landing on aircraft carriers, like a postage stamp in the middle of the ocean, right? All of these amazing things. She could fly 7 different planes. So going near the end of the episode, she tells me, well, but I never had confidence. And I'm like, wait a minute.
You're like, girl, you just landed a plane.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm like, how can this be? And she said, well, my father said that I would grow out of it. And I'm like, you're in the International Pioneer Hall of Fame. How could you have done all of this and not have confidence? And she said, I just acted like I did. And to me, that was like the best lesson ever, because how many times do we get in situations where we don't have confidence, but if we had that mindset where we knew that all we had to do was act like it, how much of our life would change? How much of the worry and the anxiety would go away if we were just able to act like we do, and that would be enough. So
Fake it till you make it.
That is a fact. And obviously she did. She made it pretty well by having all of those,
Yeah,
kudos.
I think that goes for like being in front of a crowd, but landing on an aircraft carrier or a postage stamp in the middle of the ocean. That's where I'd be like, I don't think I could fake this one.
Yeah.
I have a feeling I'm about to die.
Yeah. But again, it's all that training, right? It's all the training. It's the experience. It's knowing how to do it. And I don't think we give ourselves credit. And this is what I talk a lot with my clients about, not giving ourselves credit. Because if you talk about your superpowers, like I'll talk about my superpowers. I'm a problem solver. I'm a good communicator. And, I know how to build empires. That is my thing, right? But then when you ask somebody, well, what's your superpower? Well, I'm a good communicator, but everybody else is a good communicator, because I think even as women, we'll talk about women, we don't give ourselves that credit, but we'll really work a lot of time on the things that we're not good at. But if we just invested in making ourselves better at the things that we are good at, think of how much more we can accomplish. Because I'll never be patient, no matter what, downtown Heather Brown. Never. It's not going to happen. I'm at an age where it's just not going to happen. I get it. So why would I spend that much more time to be more patient? I'm only impatient sometimes, right? But I want to work on the other things that are going to get me to where I want to go.
So the things, focus on the ones that you're really good at it and make yourself the best.
And make yourself
excellent.
stand out. Exactly.
I like that advice.
Yeah.
That's sage advice. I'm going to try that. What if you're really good at like drinking tequila and shopping?
Is that your superpower?
That might be my superpower. I think we just discovered it. And
No.
Gina Osborn says, keep going on that one.
I can do it. I'll go shopping with you for sure. But what are your superpowers? Let's talk about you for a minute.
Oh, gosh.
Come on.
People are sick of hearing
No.
about me.
No. I want to hear your superpowers.
I have the gift of discernment. I know if I walk in a room and someone's bad, evil, I can spot evil people from.
So that's instinct.
Yeah, I have incredible instinct. And I think one of my superpowers is I do not have a problem being me. I mean, some people might have a problem with me being me, but I like to be authentic. And I do think that makes people uncomfortable sometimes, but I feel like I'm the person who says what everybody else is actually thinking, but they don't want to say it. And,
So what success has that brought you in your life by being good at that?
Well, I was a very successful trial attorney. Well, I am a successful trial attorney still. But when I was in the DA's office, I could open up a can of whoop ass because I knew people. I understood people. I was a waitress for 13 years, and I got to, I developed some really good people skills.
Yeah.
And the ability to, navigate conversation with just about anyone. So that helped me when I was picking a jury. I could identify, what I thought were going to be good jurors, people that would listen and relate to me. And I think just my authenticity made people think like, I'm just saying it like it is. So I would just, talk to the jurors like I'm talking to you right now. And I think that gave the jurors the confidence to like just look at it as reasonable people and not like some stiff, sterile law thing where, you know, it just like, you just got to decide who you believe.
Yeah.
Does this sound like bullshit or does this sound like bullshit? And you have the tools within you to decide that.
Yeah.
And I would empower the jury to make the right decision, in my opinion.
But it's interesting that the qualities, the characteristics in you that have made you so successful were things that you were natural at. You didn't have to put a whole bunch of work, because you can't really, you know, with your instincts, you either have it or you don't.
Yeah,
right?
true.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting that people need to give themselves credit for the things that they're good at and know that that is unique to them. And I think once you start focusing on what you're really good at, that's when you start finding that breakthrough success.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. So, well, let's talk about that a little bit. So you're, I love that you're doing this podcast and you're just, you know, shining a light on all these really cool people and also, you know, giving some real practical advice and information, and just like someone who's made it, someone who's built an empire can tell you how this is how you build an empire. Like that's who you want to go to for advice on leading. So someone who's been a successful leader and been able to lead a variety of different people in different scenarios and situations and different countries even, you know. So that's very impressive of you. And I love that you're sharing that wisdom and sharing that knowledge with other people. And so you do that on your podcast, but are you doing other things also? I know you did a TED Talk. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, I do. I did a TED Talk, and that talks about everything we were talking about today as far as the breakthrough success. And I give 3 different maverick moves that people can implement that will give them breakthroughs or lead them to breakthrough success. And I'm also a keynote speaker, and I do training as well. I really focus on making maverick moves because that's part of my brand, but I also talk about leading through chaos, crisis, and change, and really I love to tell stories. That is my thing, if you haven't figured that out yet. And I love to tell people stories, especially from a perspective that they're totally and completely unfamiliar with. I know when Tom Brown comes home and tells you a story, it's not nearly as exciting since you are sort of in the business as well. But I really enjoy telling my stories to groups. I love speaking to women's groups because I like to get them all riled up. But yeah, so I go around. I'm an international keynote speaker, and then I also do corporate training as well. And that's where I get to tell stories and really sort of motivate and inspire people because I've spent my life in service and I want to continue to do that.
Wow, that was a lot. You do so much, Gina. Where can people find you if they want to have you come be a keynote speaker or any of these other amazing things you just told us about?
Well, you can go to my website at GinaLOsborn.com. Gina L, as in Lima, Louise, GinaLosborn.com. And you can find me on social media, Gina L. Osborn, and all of my speaking topics are on my website. And please tune in to Making Maverick Moves. You can see us on YouTube, or you can see us on your favorite podcast provider.
I love that. Oh, and don't forget, listeners, to like, subscribe, and follow. I never say it because it seems like it doesn't cost money. When you say subscribe, it sounds like you got to pay money, but and some of them you do. But ours you don't. Yours you don't. Mine you don't. But I know you listen, but if you can hit the little follow button, which doesn't cost you anything, it helps us to gain followers. And that's what you need.
Yes.
Right? Followers and downloads and listeners. So don't forget to follow and subscribe and listen to Gina's amazing podcast, Making Maverick Moves. And if you want her to be your keynote speaker, you know where to reach her at GinaLOsborn.com.
Thank
right?
you, ma'am. Yes.
Yeah. Well, gosh, this has been enlightening. What an amazing woman you are.
Oh, thank
I mean,
you.
for reals, and so stunning at the same time.
Thank you.
Yes, she's got it going on. I love it. I loved having you here. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It was such an honor and pleasure to have you. And I look forward to having you come back. Will you come back and tell us some more amazing things you're doing?
Absolutely.
Okay, that'd be wonderful. Thanks so much. All right. It's a wrap with Gina L. Osborn. And so until we meet again, if you can't find the light, be the light like Gina Badass Osborn.
Be the light, shine so bright. Turn the wrongs, make them right. In the night, bright.